Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara's owner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. Hey, guys, it's me, John Davis, and I am here with the lovely Tamara owner, and we are going to talk with our lovely guest today, Miss Tasha Christy. And I'm really excited to hear. I don't know a lot. Because once again, Tamara has thrown a loop at me. So this is going to be lovely. I'm enjoying this loop thing because I get to sleep in late. So good morning, Tamara. How are you today?
Good morning, John. I'm clinging to that sleep in late concept. I haven't done that in a while. Yes, I like throwing these little surprises at you, which is what we've decided to do. So John and I are bringing on more and more guests because it's so much fun to get to know different people and hear about their spiritual journeys. And today we have Tasha Christy, who I met through a group, and she does something called human design. And the way I know her is the way that she brings that into our businesses as entrepreneurs and how our human design can impact the way that we move through our business and work it. So welcome, Tasha. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll just start pestering you with questions.
I am an energetic marketing coach, copywriter, human design expert. I help transformational entrepreneurs, in particular in the online space, to really show up powerfully in their fields, in their industries, position themselves as thought leaders, and all. Like, human design is the tool, the main modality that I use to help them to better understand themselves and how they operate, and then also help me, to advise them in such a way that's in alignment with who they are.
So what is human design? I don't know.
Human design is, I would say, it's like a mixture between like different Eastern and Western modalities, like astrology. You have the tantric system, like the centers are kind of based a lot on the chakras, like that kind of thing. But it basically tells you how you're designed to move in the world. So there are 5 different energy types. And like, depending on your type and then some of the other characteristics, it tells you how you're kind of designed and like to operate and move in the world and create things and manifest and like just the different things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And how has this worked in your personal life?
Well, I was introduced to human design early 2019, like probably around, I think it was February, March, when I had my first human design reading. And then so after that, but in the beginning, I kind of was like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. But then I started working with this mentor at the time who was a human design expert. And so in working with her one-on-one, she kind of really helped me to learn more about human design and to start to really embody my human design. And so that's when things started to shift in my business. I noticed that it was a lot easier for me to show up because I was responding, because I'm a generator, as opposed to, just trying to kind of create things out of thin air. And so that was the first thing. And then late 2019, I kind of started to just do more research about it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I could use this to help some of my clients. Like, really, because that's what I do as a marketing coach, copywriter. I really try to help people create content and show up, really consistently, especially in energetically consistently, so they can have staying power, so their content can kind of carry them through, so people can then really be engaged with it, and start to really see them as a leader and an expert in their space. And so I was like, okay, let me try this and play around with it and see if I even, like using it, and people are even, taking to it, whatever. So I went inside this Facebook group and I was like, okay, have y'all ever thought about using human design, to tell you how to market your business? And the response I got was explosive. Like, I'm talking about over 150 comments. from people who were curious about human design and never thought about using it, and like that in their business, stuff like that, because human design is a general modality. So the way you take it and use it and apply it, like you can apply it to your love life, you can apply it to your business, you can apply it to your career, like to family, how you do, different things with your kids, that kind of thing. So, at that time, there was only maybe like a small percentage of people who were using it for business. And so when I stepped into that space, it was rare, and then I did a couple of human design readings at first for free, to see if I even liked it, whatever. And then people, really took to it. I started to really show up in the space as an expert, in human design, and using it in particular with marketing and content creation, which is, like I said, it's still today rare, that people are talking about it in that way. So
I find it interesting that you put it out there and you had a huge response, because I personally think that right now the whole society is moving much towards a much more spiritual based anyway. And I think that just the fact that you put it out there is sort of a proof that we are moving in that direction. I know that my lovely co-host over here went through the process with you. So Tamara, what's your thought about this whole human design thing?
I'm an open-minded skeptic. So I'm always willing to try anything and learn about different things. And I had no idea what human design was until my business coach introduced my mastermind to Tasha. And it immediately started to make sense. She was talking about and Tasha will have you talk about the different types, right? So I'm a manifesting generator, and I was trying to follow my coach's suggestions. I love my business coach. She's amazing. And she's a projector, which Tasha will explain. And it's totally different.
Yeah, totally
and different. She was like, you have to do this one thing at a time. And I was all, but I want to do 5 things at a time. And I'm bored if I'm just doing one thing. And then, so I kind of looked into that. I played with it a little bit. And then I met one-on-one with Tasha, and she basically said, no, you do what you want, show up when it feels good and how it feels good, and do what you want. And as soon as I started doing that and kind of being all over the place, things started to shift, and I'm getting people showing up and respond. Like we were just talking, John, on YouTube, people responding. And I had clients who I've never met book me and pay before ever talking to me. And it's it feels so good to just be showing up all over
the place.
My energy out there. And that feels so much more me than going, I'll do this one thing at a time. I can't do that. That's boring.
I know.
Tasha, tell us about the different types.
Okay, so there are 5 types. There's manifestors, and manifestors are only 9% of 8 to 9% of the population, but a majority of people think they've been conditioned to operate like manifestors. Basically, we've been conditioned in this society to force, make things happen, use the sheer force of our will, to bring things into existence, like that kind of thing. That's manifestors. That's what they do. They initiate and they inform, like that's all they have to do, really, to bring things into their reality. And so there is this dynamic in human design where everybody's like jealous kind of manifestors, because it's like, oh, they have it easier. All they have to do is, decide they want to do something, and then the thing just shows up. But of course, every type has its conditioning. So manifestors are usually conditioned to be kind of like generators, where they're kind of holding back, they're waiting, they're asking for feedback before they actually do something, like all these things that they don't really have to do. So they're spending all their energy, and then they don't have a defined sacral. So they don't have the energy to keep, going and going and going and going and working and doing all this stuff. They don't have the energy for that. And so, so that's manifestors. And then there's generator types. There's manifesting generators, and then there's, regular generators. Manifesting generators, the only, nuance between generators and manifesting generators is that manifesting generators they're part manifestors. So they can, inform, and then they kind of have to lean back and wait to respond. So that's the main strategy for generator types, is really responding, creating everything in response. I don't like to say waiting, even though that's common speak for in human design. Is like you're supposed to wait to respond, but really you're kind of playing, you're kind of enjoying life, you're really digging deep into what you actually really love to do, and through like doing that kind of stuff is when the things to respond to show up. So
Yeah,
you're
that's
not
been
just
so
sitting
true.
back and like, oh my God, it's taking forever for this thing to show up. No, you're living your life.
Yeah.
And so that when you're doing that and it is really magnetic, and your sacral, you have sacral energy. They're the only types that have the sacral center defined. And so you have a sustainable energy to do work, but it has to be work that you love. And that really, it brings meaning into your life. And so when you're doing that on a consistent basis, you're super magnetic. All the opportunities are coming your way. Stuff is just showing up in your inbox. You're not having to, force, push, look for clients. Like they're just kind of coming. And so that's that type. And then they're projectors. Projectors are a non-energy type, meaning that their sacral center is not defined, but unlike manifestors, they don't have the initiating energy, because manifestors have like this burst of energy in the beginning when they're super excited and they get a new idea and they want to, whatever, and then they kind of burn out. Projectors don't really even have that. So they need a lot of rest to kind of sort of maintain their energy. They need a lot of focus when it comes to their marketing. They can't be all over the place. They don't have the energy to do that. And so that's the reason why if you have a coach who's a projector, she's going to tell you, you need to focus and you need to just do one thing, not because she's not, she doesn't know what she's doing, but that's because that's how she has to operate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If she does too much, then that means that, her stuff, she's going to wear herself out, basically. Right. And so projectors usually kind of have it hard because they have to kind of wait for invitations. But again, it's not the waiting and impatiently looking at their watch and like, when's the next invitation going to come? No, they're, leaning back into their bliss. They're showing up as that lighthouse. I like to call it lighthouse energy, person who's just shining their light when they feel inspired and then turning it off when they don't want to be bothered, awaiting, allowing the people to show up. The right people are going to show up in this space knowing that they're magnetic already, so they don't have to, try to be seen and heard. They're just kind of standing there in their power, in their expertise, and then, knowing that the right people are going to show up. And then the last type is reflector. Reflectors are unique in that they don't have any defined centers. So if you see a chart, a human design chart, and it's all basically almost all white, except for maybe a few defined gates here and there, that's automatically, it's a reflector, because they don't have any defined gates. They don't have any inner authority. They're basically complete mirrors, and they're here to really, like reflect the energy of the collective. And so that's how with their marketing, how they kind of do their marketing, where they build this community of really, great people, and they're reflecting, the on the pulse of what's going on, with the collective overall and with the collective in their community. So, yeah.
So have you found in your work that everyone falls into a very specific category, or do people have different aspects of these different categories in their lives?
When it comes to, because human design is not a personality test. Like, I have to tell people that it's not like Myers-Briggs or some other kind of subjective where you have to answer these questions. No, it's based on 3 facts: date of birth, location, and time. That's it. So whatever that, based on those facts, that's the category you're going to fall into. But I also I've started using human design as more of a guide in the last 6 months rather than a blueprint, because I always like to check in with clients to make sure that it's in alignment with who they are. Like, do you feel good about this? A lot of the times it really kind of just confirms what their soul is already saying. They're already like, oh, this makes sense because I don't like doing XYZ, or I feel better when I'm doing it this way. And usually it's in alignment to a certain degree with their type and how they're, like their strategy, and then I help people to lean into their authority as well, which, is really to me an embodiment tool. Like that's the thing, the main thing I've gotten from human design is, is the embodiment piece, and kind of like, because most of us, like the way we, are designed or conditioned to operate in this society is we're usually cut off and disconnected from our bodies. So it's like we're not feeling anything. We're just thinking all the time. We're logical. Does this make sense? That kind of thing. And so the thing about really operating and embodying your human design is that it really connects you to like your body and what you're feeling like, and movement, and making decisions based on either your gut response or your instinct, or something like that, as opposed to the head, because the head is not really designed to make decisions. It just is here for cognitive functioning, and to be able to gather information and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to real life decisions, business decisions, relationship decisions, that's supposed to be made from your body, because the body knows. It's instinctual. Like, can't say okay, yes, no. I mean, that's all it can say is yes or no. Like, it's either this is right for me, this is not. And then the head will come in, though, because we've been trained to make logical decisions. You know what I'm saying? The head will come in and then try to reason you out of whatever, gut, body decision that you decided to make.
I love that. I'm always saying, don't think about it, feel about it. And that aligns perfectly with this.
Yeah.
And I have to say too, after I learned that I was a responder, it made me feel so much better, because it gave me permission to be who I am, right? I was like, oh, I have to go reach out and ask people to be my clients. And that just felt gross to me.
Yes.
As much as sales, like, sales as love work that I did, it still didn't feel good to me. And then when I learned I'm a responder, I respond to my community. I respond to people asking me, when are you doing another workshop, or what's your package? And then that feels right. It feels good to just respond and not be like, please come and work with me.
Yeah, I know. We've all gone through, I think, as entrepreneurs, that period of sending cold DMs and cringing.
Yeah,
because the coach we were working with was like, oh, you gotta send 15 DMs a day in order to connect with new clients. And I used to did that. I did that a couple of times. I never quite got to 15 daily, because like I said, after I sent one or two, I just was cringing and was like, oh my God, there's got to be a better way. But it made sense to me too when I found out about what my human design type was. This is why this feels icky to me.
Right.
Yeah. And it also drains you of your energy. If you're, as a generator MG, even though we have a lot of energy because of the sacral, if the lower expression of the sacral center is to use it for work that's not, like, it's not fulfilling, or it's not productive, it's not actually resulting in anything, we're just kind of doing busy work. And so that's why a lot of times after I did stuff like that, I would feel drained too, because I was doing work, but it wasn't really leading to anything, and then B, it didn't feel good.
I can only do work that lights me up. It's just I know it. Like, I cannot go.
I don't know how I survived all those years of my 9 to 5. I don't know how I survived all those years of my 9 to 5 when I was just working for the sake of making, a check. But yeah, I did. I mean, but now it makes sense why, once I decided, okay, I want to do something else, I want to do my business full time, why it was hard for me to, to show up and actually do the work. So
yeah. I bet, John, I bet you're a manifesting generator, if I had to bet.
And why would you say something like that?
But also, I don't think you are a responder, though. Do you have to be a responder if you are a manifesting generator, Tasha?
Yeah, But depending on the chart, how the chart is arranged, some people are more manifester
Okay.
than generator.
'Cause John's a
Well,
go,
I
go,
will
go,
tell you,
get it done,
Tamara,
get it done.
much like you, Tamara, I despise going out and trying to get people to buy my product or service. I hate it. Right. I would much rather be seen like on YouTube or someplace and respond than I ever would want to go out there and knock on their door. In fact, I've signed up for many systems that are teach you how to coldly contact people and do all that. And I always turn them off. I'm not following this because I just won't do it.
Right.
I just won't do it. So I'm with you on that. So we have come back so that because a cosmic 2x4 is happening as we speak. Tasha, you just were very kind enough to run my chart because I was trying to do it during the show and was failing miserably, but you have been lovely. Why don't you tell these people a little bit about me?
Well, John is a manifesting generator. He's an emotional authority, meaning that, there's waves of emotion because the solar plexus is defined. And so, we, because I'm an emotional authority as well, we experience waves of emotion and then like times of even temperedness. And then he is a 6'2". That's his profile. And meaning that like on the line 6 is like the role model. The guru teacher, really kind of people gravitate towards him, look to him, to see how to kind of do things. And that's something that he naturally does. But then on the 2 line is a hermit. So our line 2s, we usually love our alone time. It's an interesting dichotomy because on the one hand, it's like you attract people and people want to come, to you. But there are times when you may get overwhelmed because as a line 2, you need your alone time too. So you just want to kind of leave and not do any peopling. So it's an interesting, like I said, thing where, if you're a line 2 and then you're matched with another number, because the other number is almost always like it requires you to have foster relationships with people. But then the line 2 is like, I don't feel like being bothered, today. So leave me alone. They may not answer their phones. I know I don't answer my phone some days. I don't engage with social media when I don't feel like it, like that kind of thing. So
I actually have a profile picture for Facebook that is the back of me. And then I have a cover that says on Facebook break or on Facebook break. And sometimes I'll just stick it up there because I don't want to deal with any of you people. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And I will make sure this makes it into the episode.
That's the line 2 though. That's like I said, that's the kind of interesting dynamic of, because I'm a 5'2", right? So the line 5 is like somebody who's a heretic, somebody who's I'm always causing some kind of controversy or, saying something that people don't like or whatever, or people think is really funny and then they want to engage in it. And sometimes I get overwhelmed because my content gets a lot of engagement. And so I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. So
I'm also a 5, but a 5'1". So what's the 1?
The 1 is the line 1 is the investigator. So investigators are kind of, I would say they have a tendency to be kind of introverted too, because y'all like to kind of go deep into the research and the reading and knowing all the things. Like a line 1 is like an encyclopedia about the stuff that they really are interested in and like their area of expertise. Like they pretty much know everything. And so that requires a lot of kind of alone time, introspection, like stuff like that. And so that it's kind of interesting with the line 5'1" too, because 5, like I said, the line 5 is kind of a disruptor, so you're kind of going to say things if you're allowing yourself to be, who you are, you're going to say things and then people are going to come and you're going to be overwhelmed because it's like, oh my God, I don't want to people anymore. Like, and these comments and stuff don't stop, so yeah, I
agree. She is a disruptor.
That's such a loving one. I lovingly disrupt.
You do. You lovingly disrupt with a cosmic 2x4.
That was so much fun. How do people find out what their human design is, Tasha?
Well, you can use, I recommend either mybodygraph.com or there's also Genetic Matrix. Those two are the most accurate. Some people use Jovian, but I'm not a huge fan of Jovian. But you go to that platform and then you just enter in your information, and you do need the location, geographical location, the date, and the exact time, if it's possible, as close to the exact time as possible.
I got the exact time, so I'll definitely be doing that.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear about what you are. Yeah. So how did this what was your day job, Tasha?
I am a speech pathologist. But I don't practice anymore, but that's what I was doing prior to going full time.
I'm sorry, real quick. What was that that last website you suggested I do that on?
Genetic Matrix.
Okay.
I can put the thing in the chat. Let me see.
Okay, great.
That's cool. It's so interesting. I mean, it's so detailed. Like the chart took me a long minute to really go, what does all this mean? And I bought a book, which I don't know where it is because I took it to dinner with my friend Shannon one night so we could discuss hers. But it's so, there's so much information.
Yeah, that's a lot. Because you have the type. That's the first thing. That's the level that I tell people to start at, is at the level of type. But then you have your authority. And depending, on which centers are defined or undefined in your chart, that'll determine your authority. Then you have the centers, and all, either the conditioning or, centers of strength or wisdom, whatever. So you have all those 9 centers, and depending on what's defined, undefined, that kind of thing. Then you have the gates, like all the little numbers on the chart. Those are gates. And then some of them will be defined or undefined. You also have when the gates connect to each other, and I don't know why I can't remember the name of that right now, but
Monday morning.
Yeah, they connect. So you have those that some of them will be defined, and then some of them will be undefined. But I tell people in the beginning to focus on the main 3 things that you need to embody first. And then the rest of it is who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily something you have to embody. You also have the profile, which to me is kind of like your personality type. When it comes to business, I consider it to be like your leadership type kind of thing, and how you kind of show up in your business and maybe create your offers and work with clients. Like it kind of like denotes that, in my opinion. And so you have all of those elements, but the ones I tell people to focus on in the beginning are type, authority, and like your centers, and the definition that comes from there. Like all the rest of the stuff that is on the chart, those things are extra, and things that you can lean into over time, but you don't necessarily have to like embody them or make like effort to align yourself with it. That's who you already are. And the more you lean into your strategy, your authority, and your centers, the more those elements of your personality will just shine through. You know what I'm saying? So you don't necessarily have to try to figure out that. Yeah.
Oh, I tried to get my manifest my profile real quick, but it didn't happen. So I wanted to go, yeah, this is what I am, but it didn't happen. But it's fascinating to me because I think that on this show on Spirit Cafe, we've talked to numerologists, we've talked to card readers, and they all come with very unique perspectives, and we always come out of it going, wow, that was really cool. That was like we really felt like we connected with that. I find that with this, it's interesting just as well, because it's kind of the same sort of situation. I'm finding I'm kind of connecting with the idea of who the way you process the world is based upon, who you are on some sort of spiritual sort of level or place of that nature. So when you look at human design, how do you process human design with your own personal spirituality before this?
Well, for me, I'm like, I believe in God, spirit, universe. I'm not necessarily these days a religious person. Like, I don't have, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. It's okay.
I don't have a set religion,
right,
so to speak. Like, I'm not, Christian or anything like that. Not really. I mean, I would say my background is in Christianity, but I don't necessarily consider myself to be a traditional Christian.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
We're both recovered Catholics, so it's okay. We get it.
Yeah, I was Catholic too. I was raised Catholic, actually.
Where are you?
Very, very Catholic. Went to Catholic schools, catechism, every sacrament, like the whole thing. And so I for me, I just feel like it's kind of, I look at it like I look at astrology or any of the other modalities, that it's just another way for me to better understand who God designed me to be,
Right. Right. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I do like that way that you just phrased that, the way that, but to better understand the way God designed me. Because I mean, I think John and I, we both agree, like there's something, we just often call it something different, right? Sometimes on the show, we call it the yada yada, just because there's so many different names of God or for that greater energy of the universe. And so, but that's beautiful to better understand the way, whatever that energy is created me. That's beautiful.
This has been absolutely fascinating. How do people get a hold of you, Tasha?
Well, right now I'm on Facebook. That's my main, I would say, social media platform. I don't have an official website, to be honest. But most people connect with me on Facebook. Okay. And then, like from there, they see I'm very active. I post pretty much almost daily, at least once, sometimes several times a day, depending on what I have to say that day. And yeah, like right now, that's the best way to kind of connect with me.
Well, as a social media person, it's interesting because I have noticed that my websites and our website don't get any traction, but our YouTube does, and our other platforms do. And I'm wondering if is a shift right now in the way information is consumed.
I feel like back in the day, because when I first came into the online space, one of the first programs I took was called Launch Your Business Bootcamp. And the coach who, facilitated the program told us that we had to have a website in order for people to be able to find us. This was probably in 2015, 16. So social media was a thing back then, but it wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And so I remember spending a whole weekend, because back then I was still working, a whole weekend putting together. Now, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a web designer, I'm putting together a website. And I decided to use WordPress, which is not super user friendly. And so I decided to put together, and I had a website for a while, but it looked, it didn't look like, a great website, because like I said, I wasn't a graphic designer. And so, but I thought, I was like, okay, well, I can send people to this website, and yeah, people would go, but I found that like my business grew a lot faster on social media.
Yeah, I think it depends on I think it
Yeah.
depends greatly on your industry itself. Like as a corporate speaker, you have to have a website because it's your business card. You
Mhm.
send them there to look at certain things. But the way you get work is to be on speaker bureau platforms as opposed,
Right.
and then by posting things. So I think it
As
really
a
depends.
coach, really, if it's a Facebook, if you have Facebook these days, that's really enough as long as your people are also on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. So so people can reach you on Facebook. Is it Natasha Christie
It's
on
Tasha
Facebook?
Christie.
Mhm.
It's Tasha Christie on Facebook.
Okay.
And
put it
I
all
also
shown
have
up.
a Facebook group
Mhm.
that's called the Thought Leader Collective. And so that's a free group. I'm about to start like really kind of ramping that up again and doing free trainings every week, like free lives or whatever, on a topic or a Q&A or whatever I decide I want to do. And so in that group we talk about all things marketing, messaging, content creation with a dab, a dab into human design and energetics, embodiment or whatever.
Cool.
So yeah. So that's another way to kind of get access to my free content, because I will be going live there. And I don't like, if I don't, that's the only place you'll be able to get me live. I mean, I like to do it in there because it's a smaller group of people. And then it gives people an incentive to jump into the group. Like if you're going live on your page, they have no reason, to really join, Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much, Tasha. This has been wonderful. Tamara, you wanna send us out?
Absolutely. Thank you again, Tasha. It's been a joy to learn more about human design and to hear how it works for businesses and listeners. As always, reach out, check out Tasha. And if you're curious, follow up with one of those websites. John will put all that good info in the show notes. And as always, let us read your comments. We love to know what you're thinking, what questions you have, and we appreciate you. We're so grateful for you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.